Alright guys, so this is your short summary or your short PowerPoint over Nelson Mandela and apartheid in South Africa. This mostly is going to cover the apartheid and give you a little history of that before we do our reading on block day. So this is Nelson Mandela in South Africa. What is apartheid? This would be a definition to include in your summary. You also need to include these notes in your big C, little c worksheet, your context worksheet, only taking notes on the outside circle. We are not working on the inside circle yet. So social and political policy of racial segregation, that's what apartheid was. It created discrimination and it was enforced by the white minority. So there were whites that came to South Africa from, they were the Dutch and the British, and they enforced this segregation, the minority did. Apartheid equals apartness, and the Afrikaans, the white Africans, are the ones that coined this term. Apartheid began 1930s is when they coined the term apartheid. 1940, the National Party's political slogan became the policy itself. It was the slogan in the 1940s, apartheid, and then the policy itself dates back to the 1650s. The arrival of the Dutch and the British are the ones that kind of started this and coined the term. And 1948, an Afrikaner nationalist came into power and put apartheid into action. An Afrikaner is someone Dutch or British or from Europe that came to South Africa due to religious persecution most of the time, and these Afrikaners were white Africans. In 1950, the Population Registration Act came into play. There were 4 racial categories: the Bantu, which were the black African, the white, colored, which were mixed races, and then Asian, Indians, and Pakistanis. These groups were restricted in the 1950s to only live in specific residential areas. The opposition to apartheid, many black political groups opposed apartheid. There was violence, strikes, demonstrations. Mandela was one of those political leaders that opposed apartheid. International community denounced it. Internationally, it was not supported. And then 1985, the economic sanctions, kind of the U.S. and Great Britain became more involved. The end of the apartheid was in the early 1990s. President F.W. de Klerk became into power, and he dismantled the apartheid system. He released prisoners that were imprisoned, black leaders that had fought against apartheid, including Mandela. And in 1994, the Constitution was rewritten and the free general elections were held. And that is when Nelson Mandela was elected as the first black president of South Africa. These are apartheid leaders. The video, the highlight there is something that we're watching in class, so you should have already seen it over Nelson Mandela. And then we're going to read I Am Prepared to Die, or sections of his poem, or his speech rather, in class. So you should have this background information kind of under your belt in your notes, and please at this time go and write a summary over apartheid, what apartheid is, and what it was about, what happened during apartheid and when it ended, and Nelson Mandela's part in that. Also, write anything that was something new that you learned from this information, and be prepared to return to class ready to move forward.